Hello and welcome to Catching Up with Carter here on Saddleback College Radio, 88.5 HD2. And joining me today is Matthew Pearce, who is the one who basically got me into all of this. Thank you for joining me, Matthew. How's been your day?
Oh, it's been great, and I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to come back to Saddleback and be able to come back into the studio and, do what also got me into this a lot more. So, yeah, thanks for having me, man. Excited to talk.
No problem at all. We're going to be talking about the NBA today and some NFL stuff. Of course, the NBA playoffs, they're heating up. It's been exciting. I'm wearing my Warriors jersey here in the studio as that Warriors game is about to get ready to go. We've been watching the Knicks and Celtics game. Do you have an update on that, Matthew?
Yeah, currently the Knicks are leading by 9. The score is Boston 104, New York 113 with 2 minutes and 43 seconds left on the clock and ticking.
So it's crazy. It's been an amazing series there with the Knicks and Celtics. We'll be back in 1 minute to talk about that series and what we think is going to happen. Hello and welcome back to Catching Up with Carter here on Saddleback College Radio, 88.5 HD2, and I'm joined by Matthew Pearce here in the studio. We were just talking about the Knicks and Celtics. We're talking about actually before the entire show has started, and it's been a crazy series so far. Do we have another update for ourselves here with the Knicks series?
Yeah, Knicks are up 10. Brunson has 38 right now, so he's putting on a clinic in New York.
Masterclass.
Yeah.
He has been. And it's been a crazy series. Game 1 and Game 2 went to the Knicks, and it was easily just easily the best series that I've seen, actually, from the NBA so far. I mean, we've seen McCall Bridges with 2 game-sealing steals in this series, and they won in overtime in the first game, 108-105. The Knicks erased 2 20-point deficits in Game 1 and Game 2, and they won Game 2 91-90. Josh Hart led with 23 points in that second game. Just some crazy games there. And of course, in Game 3, Celtics finally got something going. But one of the biggest stories around this game is the three-point shooting. The Celtics, they were 15 of 60 from 3 in Game 1, 10 of 40 in Game 2. And in Game 3, they were 20 of 40 in Game 3, and that got them going. In this game, I don't know the exact statistics, but it seems like it's not going too great. The Knicks are playing great. What's your thought on this series so far, Matthew?
Yeah, okay, first, real quick, I don't want to be wrong, but I believe I just saw Jason Tatum on a wheelchair going to the locker room.
No way.
So
this is
not only
news.
are their Knicks about to go up 3-1, but the Celtics may have lost Jason Tatum going in to Game 5. So anyways, regardless of that, one of the things you have to say first is the Celtics have stuck to shooting. They haven't. When you're a shooting team and you need to shoot the basketball as much as they do to win, you can't stop shooting and get shy from it. So I respect them from sticking to the game plan. But you can't shoot 25% from 3 and expect to fit and close out a game, especially in the NBA playoffs, right? We look at some of these teams that dominated in the regular season. The Thunder, they were really good in the regular season. They didn't play a whole lot of close games. And so when you come to the playoffs and you're playing all these close games, those threes at the end of the game really matter. And they're the difference, those 1-point differences between a layup and a mid-ranger and a 3 really can change the outcome of a game. So it's really tough to win when you're shooting 25% from behind the arc.
Even in Game 3, they talked about it, that the points in the paint were way up from Game 1 and Game 2. And it seems like in the Game 4, it's not going their way. And if this is a 3-1 series for the Knicks, are they legitimate contenders? Or is this just, the Celtics crumbling? Are the Knicks going to make it maybe to the finals and go on? And even there was, I know this is kind of a meme here, but there was even like a WWE thing where it was Halliburton and Jalen Brunson like looking at each other. They were talking back and forth. They're like, this could be the Eastern Conference Finals. And it could be who's going. You think the Knicks are going to move on?
I think that's the West or the Eastern Conference Finals that most people would like to see at this point. And I will confirm Jason Tatum was the one with the injury, putting no pressure on his right leg. So
that's not good at all.
So yeah, he's definitely out for the next game. He's probably done for the season. Their season's probably going to get cut here, and regardless. It's really interesting how the Pacers and the Knicks have come out and somehow been 2 of the most fun teams to watch so far in the postseason. There's just no reason to not like them, in my opinion.
There is no reason to not like them. The Knicks have been fun to watch. Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges as well as someone to talk about. 2 game-sealing steals. He's been great all year. We've seen like he was one of those players that plays all season. It's been really fun to see that happen for the past few years. Is Mikal Bridges right now the most underrated two-way player in the league? I think he is. Do you think the same?
I think he's definitely one of them, but you can't really say that without bringing up someone like Alex Caruso
That's true.
Who's been phenomenal for the Thunder. Especially defensively, and he's been doing that for years. He's a veteran in the league at this point, and that's what we expect. But Mikal Bridges has really kind of stepped up in this postseason a lot, and he's really become a crucial player down the stretch. So
those steals, just watching it was so exciting. Like those 2 steals at the end of the game to win it in that game 1, game 2.
Yep.
It's crazy to happen the same way. It was basically, they were saying it was deja vu, like for the Celtics. 2 20-point deficits that they were not able to come back from. Now let's move over to the Cavs and the Pacers because we're talking about how the Cavs have just been struggling, and the Pacers have been a fun team to watch. The Pacers dominated the Cavs in Game 4. I was watching this. It was actually my brother. We were actually going out. It was Mother's Day. We wanted to go out with the family, and my brother was like, "Oh, let's go to a place that has the game." And we're arguing for like 45 minutes. It's really funny. 45 minutes just arguing. Where are we going to go to eat? And I just kept looking at the TV. It was a 10-point lead, a 20-point lead. It's a 30-point. I was at one point, like, what is happening here? They were leading by 80-39 at one point in this game. Like, it's tying the largest halftime lead in NBA playoff history for the Pacers. What is happening with the Cavs, Matthew?
It's really interesting to see because the Pacers came out of the Bucks series really hot, and they've definitely carried some of that momentum over. And the Cavs and the Celtics, those are 2 teams you wouldn't expect to both be down 3-1.
Not at all. No one expects that.
No one expects this, but now we're staring at it in the face, and we see the Knicks and the Pacers, each one, practically one. I'm not going to say they're going to win for sure. They're up 7 with 21 seconds left, but
it's done.
The game's done. They're both 1 game away from the Eastern Conference Finals.
It's crazy. Both these teams playing each other. Both are lower seeds to, the 1-2 seeds up there.
Yep.
And the Pacers have been fun to watch. Halliburton has been great. In this last game, he actually didn't do much. He only had 11 points, and everyone else stepped up. Top end, Siakam, Turner, all earned 20-plus points. So he doesn't even need to carry.
No, and one thing that me and my buddies have been talking about throughout the entire Pacers run is he doesn't necessarily get it done the entire way. But that Halliburton is by far one of the clutchest players I've seen in a long time. I mean,
you were talking about that game was the Pacers Bucks, right?
The Bucks losing game where they got closed out by the Pacers to where they won the series. They were down like 8 or 9. I don't remember for sure with like a minute left, and Halliburton had like 5 or 7 of the points on that comeback, and so. One of the things that I've kind of thought about that's definitely been an impact probably is the NBA players and the people in the NBA themselves gave Halliburton the perfect chalkboard material going into the offseason when they said he's the most overrated player in the NBA.
100%.
They just gave him all the motivation in the world to step out there and he has nothing to lose. They already said he's the most overrated. Why not just go out there and try and prove everyone wrong?
And he basically, even though right now, like as a star, he's playing so great, bringing the Pacers to this. As well, their head coach had a quote on this. He said, "We haven't done anything yet," which is crazy to me. Like this quote, a little weird, saying we haven't done anything when you've lost 3-1.
You've only lost twice in the offseason, so in the postseason so far. Yeah. You have 7 wins. You're 7-2 currently. Against
we haven't done anything yet.
Very respectable teams, the Cavs and then the Bucks, who have Giannis Antetokounmpo, and you can never count that man out.
No, you cannot.
So it's been really interesting to watch them run through the postseason so far.
Yeah, and he says he wants the team to keep an underdog mindset, which is definitely something they can keep going with. Yep. They play most likely the Knicks. If we're going to make a prediction, most likely it'll be the Knicks.
I would guess the Knicks.
We'll see how that series goes. That'll be exciting, of course. The Knicks and the Pacers, 2 kind of underdog teams coming into the next series that they had. The next game is on Tuesday in Cleveland. He said that there's going to be a big haymaker coming, and the head coach for the Pacers Pacers. So I think he's kind of planning that there's going to be something coming in Cleveland, that they might have a few games that they have to really, fight for in that sense. Of course, we saw that it was a game time decision for Donovan Mitchell or Spida over for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we'll see what they can do. But if Donovan Mitchell's not playing, there's no chance. I mean, this is definitely the Pacers series to win. And I have the question, because we're talking about the two teams, they had high, regular season wins, 64 wins on the year for the Cavs. Does the regular season really matter anymore?
No, and I was hoping we'd talk about the Thunder a little bit, and we kind of did a little bit, but when you don't play close games, you get used to blowing people out, and that isn't how the playoffs go. And one thing real quick about the Pacers and Celtics, or the Pacers and Knicks making it to the Eastern,
of course,
is this is just like, you would have never had this at the preseason. This would have never been, like, I don't think this was anyone's prediction. Obviously, you can tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think the Pacers were
not the Pacers. At
not
least.
the Pacers.
I know the Knicks were in some.
The Knicks
talks.
were in some talks and some rumors. The Pacers is. They've been just playing out of their minds. So
they have.
It's been really fun to watch, in my opinion. And I think it's awesome competition for these top teams that, honestly, most of them are kind of just getting shown that it doesn't really matter how you go in the regular season. Like, we have the Timberwolves and Warriors, 6 and 7 seeds. They moved on, beat the Lakers and the Rockets in the first round. And then we have the Nuggets putting pressure on the Thunder with the series tied 2-2. So
regular season doesn't matter. I'm gonna say it.
There's
here.
enough games for where it doesn't.
It does not matter. Another question I had about going back to the Cavs series: have injuries also been a major factor? We've seen Donovan Mitchell get injured, but a lot of key players for the Cavs were out. There was 3 key players, and they ended up actually winning without those key players. Or actually, I believe, no, it was a Pacers comeback win, but it was a very close game. It was closer than this last one, even with all those players back in it. And so I've got a question here too, is the Pacers, they've kind of gone against injury-heavy teams. We've seen, the Bucks, they had no Dame, because, he was injured. He tore his Achilles, and they only had Giannis left. So it seems like there's been a lot of injuries on the side of the Pacers. So going into the Knicks series, if the Knicks have full firepower, I think the Knicks are going to move on. What's your thought on it?
Yeah, I'm going to look up the Knicks injury report right now. I think it's pretty, it's clean from what I can see.
It's clean for the Knicks.
It's literally sparkling clean. Yeah. There's no one on it. So that's definitely a factor. Injuries are always a factor. But another factor also, like we talked about just a minute ago, is confidence.
Yeah.
And there's no way the Pacers aren't flying out of this Cavs series with the most confidence in their basketball ability. Even you can keep the underdog mindset. Oh yeah, we're underdogs, but we just took out the 1 seed.
You still have to have some confidence.
You gotta have
right?
some pep in your step still as you move on to that next round, especially the conference championship round. So the Eastern side as a whole has been really, really entertaining so far.
The East has been very exciting. Of course, the West, in my opinion, has been even more exciting in the sense of regular season, the whole, the playoffs, they were so close in that, like, basically 1 to 2 game deficit between everybody.
The last handful of games for the Western Finals reminded me perfectly of the NFC West from this year too.
Definitely.
They were both like, everything was so close. You have no idea what's going to happen in the end. And then, some teams end up flying up. Anyways, yeah, the Western Conference was so fun to watch. And going into that, the Warriors, they've been struggling, but Butler's on it.
You know what? Okay, here's what I'm going to say, okay? Because I'm wearing the Brandon Podjemski jersey in the studio with my Warriors hat.
Is that game tipped?
The game is at 7 o'clock, so we're actually going to do some live updates during the game, but it has not started because the Knicks game is still going on. We will be checking in here, so even if you are watching the game and you're listening here, we will give you some updates. So if you are not watching the TV the entire time and listening, we will give you those updates. Yes, Butler, even though he's on this team, the Warriors have been struggling in the games without Stephen Curry. And of course, that's normal. I was listening to KNBR, another sports station. They were talking a lot about it. They're saying this roster cannot function without Steph Curry because it allows to get everybody open. And we even saw it with Steph Curry, Kevin Durant back in the past. That's the reason Kevin Durant had 30-plus points in every game. Stephen Curry brings 3 players off. Kevin Durant's wide open. Like, that's just how this game goes. And it was just really sad. I'm going to tell you, this last game, it was not good because we had a little bit of a lead and then we choked it. There's even a quote from Jimmy Butler. Of course, he's been getting booed this entire series. I've been watching, been booed over and over again. Gave a quote, "If we don't win, we damn sure don't have to worry about getting Steph back this year," Butler said. Per Anthony Slater of The Athletic, "We got to put our big boy pants on and go out there and compete at a high level and get this one on Monday or today." It's been tough, and I'm hoping that tonight is a change. We'll see what happens, but Jimmy Butler has to step up. He has to become playoff Jimmy if the Warriors have a chance. If they want to have a chance, they've got to have playoff Jimmy show up and play like he has for the Miami Heat. What's your thoughts on Jimmy Butler? Do you think he's doing better? I mean, I had a question here like, do you think Butler is doing better for the Warriors a little bit? But I'm going to say that he's been really struggling a little bit at the beginning of these playoffs, and I think he just hasn't gotten used to not having Curry on the floor yet.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where the Warriors got him for partially this scenario, right?
Yes.
I mean, their entire roster has been built around Stephen Curry the last couple of years, and that's what happens when you have a superstar of that caliber on your team. You have to first pay him, and then you have to second find players to fit his play style. And so that's what they've been doing this entire time. And when he goes down, that's your head honcho going down, right? That's your main guy going down. And I've seen so many Warriors games with him on the floor, and no one runs more and works harder than Stephen Curry for the Warriors.
Nobody.
And that's just a fact. And that's because everything is revolving around him. And so when he's moving around so much, it opens up everyone else, like you said. And so Jimmy Butler, he's been struggling. And I think that's only mainly because he hasn't quite had enough time to mesh with the team without Stephen Curry.
That's totally true.
So he's been playing the entire second half of the regular season with Curry, with confidence that he has a guy to his left and Draymond, to do what Draymond does, I guess. And so there's
we'll get into Draymond in a second.
There's all these factors, but it's not surprising that he's struggling on his, only being there half a season and missing Curry. Like that's kind of part of the whole team right there.
It's been tough. Without Stephen Curry, the team is just not there. Of course, Draymond Green, he's been in talks a lot because at this point, if he gets another technical, he's done for a game, at least a suspension. If he gets 2 more flagrant points, he has a suspension. There's even a stat that he is 4 times more likely to be ejected or to have a technical if Curry is not on the floor, which is pretty interesting, which we don't want to happen. We want to have happen tonight, at least for myself as a Warriors fan. But yeah, Butler has been struggling without it. And as well, I have the question because we're going to talk about Giannis here in a second because he finally opened trade conversation. Do the Warriors look into Giannis and getting rid of some of their young talent to try to win one last ring with Curry?
I have no idea what that salary and paying him would look like. I'm gonna assume that they can do it, and I'm gonna say what I say in the assumption that it's possible in the first place. Because if it's even possible or not, I have no idea.
I would say we can't say anything's not possible ever since Luka got traded.
I agree.
That is broke the barrier for any crazy
and
trade
the
to
NBA
happen.
isn't like the NFL with a hard cap. It's closer to the MLB, so things are a little more flexible. But is it worth it for the Warriors to do that? How many years do we think Curry has been effective at the top of his game? He's been around for a while, and there's not that much left in his tank, surely. Same with Draymond. Draymond's been around for a long time.
We've seen the gray a lot of this season. A lot of people were talking about it.
Everyone sees the gray in Draymond.
He's got the gray hair, too.
Draymond is closer to the post-game show with Chuck and Shaq than he is to...
He'd be funny. Like, I love it. We think we saw it last year. Yeah, that's what's happening.
Like, that is almost... I would put... If I could bet on that in the poly market, I would put money... I'll have to look into that. But if I can bet on that in the poly market, that would be easy money, in my opinion.
Would be easy money.
So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the postseason with Giannis. I mean, obviously, there's people saying he'll go to the Lakers, which as
crazy,
you just said,
is crazy.
As a Lakers fan and someone who follows the Lakers, is that even a thing that you want realistically? No. Because not only do you now have to pay LeBron James, Luka, Giannis, and the almighty Bronny James, but you also are getting rid of all your young talent. And then you have no depth.
I wouldn't do it.
We're already lacking depth. So there's a lot of things that go into a trade for someone like this, and that's why I think he honestly will probably stay in Milwaukee. That's my bet, is he end up staying in Milwaukee just because he has a lot of respect for Damian Lillard.
True.
And a lot of love for the city of, Milwaukee. So I think he ends up staying in the end, but this is one of those trades that can change the course of a franchise for
Definitely.
good. This is a game-changing opportunity for those teams out there that have the depth, have the players, can ship some people out, and can acquire one of the greatest players on the planet right now.
Also, the Knicks game is final, 121-113. So the Knicks are now up 3-1. So crazy stuff on the Eastern Conference side. We'll go into more of that maybe next week once we know for sure who's going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's been crazy, but we're going to stick on this Giannis stuff here because reportedly, obviously, he's open to leaving Milwaukee. He's not made a firm decision about his future. This has gone on for a few years now, to be honest. So it's been a new development, though. For the first time in his career, Giannis is open-minded about the possibility of playing elsewhere. There's meetings ahead for him with his agents, talking over, just discussing his future. Trade interest, of course, there's going to be a lot of trade interest for him, but of course the decision factors. If he believes it's a long-term fit, he might leave to go somewhere else. But if not, I mean, there's not really a point. I'd say stay in Milwaukee. Of course, he's a 2021 NBA champion, 2021 Finals MVP, a 2-time NBA MVP, 1-time Defensive Player of the Year, 8-time All-NBA, 5-time All-Defensive, 9-time All-Star. This guy's insane. Drafted in 2013 with the Bucks, so of course it's his home team. The teams that have been mentioned, the Rockets, the Lakers, the Warriors, the Pelicans. In my opinion, if it's going to be any of those teams, it's going to be the Rockets. And I know that they've got Şengün, but they have talent that they can trade away that's young, and they want to win now. So that's where I'd say. Do you have a different prediction than me?
Yeah, I don't hate that prediction at all. That's honestly what I would say exactly would happen most likely too. But one of the other things that's so interesting about this is the only reason the Milwaukee Bucks are the Milwaukee Bucks right now is because of Giannis. Yep. They didn't get permission to have their team there until 2014 after they had drafted Giannis. And you could fact check me on that, but I had a Bucks fan tell me that recently, so I'm pretty sure, sources say. Regardless, there's a lot of teams that could use Giannis, man, and him moving would be crazy, and I would hate to play against the Rockets.
The Rockets with that,
Giannis.
And if they trade away, they could probably trade away Şengün with maybe a few younger guys and keep Amen Thompson and maybe trade away some of their older guys is it Vandervliet? I think I'm saying his name correct. But I think a few of those guys, trade them away, get Giannis. That's a scary team. I mean, they were already good with some young players, and they really had no playoff experience. They were kind of the Thunder of last year, this year, in this playoff series. They had to play a team that was not very highly ranked in the Warriors. Of course, they were the 7th seed, so they got knocked out. But it was a Game 7 series. Still a great team. I could see it happening, and I think Milwaukee has to think about it though. If Giannis is going to walk, right? If he just is okay, I'm not going to stay here anymore. Of course, he's going to talk with his agents, the whole thing. I'd say you got to look at some trade packages. You at least have to consider some trade packages for him.
I don't think there's any reason they should be letting him walk. That would be just...
But I'm saying at least hear the offer.
Oh, of course.
At least hear the offers.
If he's already thinking about somewhere else, they should 100% be at the table with whoever is willing to offer anything. There's something interesting that I had this conversation the other day about Giannis going to the Thunder, and I'm going to use this to kind of move into this. But
Giannis to the Thunder?
This is a Thunder fan trying to tell me that if they don't win this year,
to go to the Warriors.
why don't we just drop off J-Dub, drop off Chet? Let's drop off some of these depth players.
I'm shaking my head in the studio. This team, the Thunder are already good. They don't need that.
Yeah, but I'm just using this to move on.
Of course.
Thunder rallied in fourth quarter to defeat the Nuggets. Series ties 2-2. This has been an interesting one after they lost the first game after leading almost the entire time.
Wild. I mean, the final score, 92-87. The Thunder finally got something going in this one. It was a close game, too. Aaron Gordon, of course, kind of gave me a little bit of a scare there at the end. I was thinking, okay, this guy's going to score like a 4-point play or something. But, Shea with 25 points. Aaron Wiggins and Caston Wallace each contributed 11 points off the bench as well. Hartenstein played great, had 14 rebounds, basically over Jokic the entire time. Jokic still played good, 27 points, 13 rebounds. Of course, that's, it's crazy to say, he just played good.
That's an average Jokic.
That's not even average. That's almost under average. That's
below
right?
average.
Jamal Murray, Christian Braun, they also played great as well. Aaron Gordon had 15 points and 16 rebounds. He's been playing a great series.
He's had a phenomenal series,
yes,
especially he had the game-winning shot. Oh, by the way, this Golden State game is officially tipped. They're up 3.
We're going.
Yeah,
Woo,
we're on here. We're on here. We're live for the Warriors.
We're up 5-0 now. Okay, keep going.
Gordon had the game-winning shot in Game 1, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, it was the 3. Yeah.
I was watching it with my roommates when that happened because I'm a Jokic guy. I like Jokic. My roommate is a huge Shea guy, and when that happened, I was like, Jokic MVP. It was really funny. But
I was watching that with 3 Thunder fans,
Ooh,
and one of them stormed out of the apartment, and the other one broke his bathroom door.
Oh my gosh!
So yeah, it was a brutal loss for them. I was laughing. So I was laughing all the way back home after that game because I thought it was pretty funny.
I've also got the question. Is this the worst showing of 2 MVP candidates playing against each other? Because it's not been good overall for these 2 guys in general. There's been a lot of people on Instagram, TikTok, scrolling through. They're like, this is the brick fest. We're building a house basically in this series between these 2 guys, and other players are having to pick up the slack. Do you think this is true? This has just been going around in the media.
Well, I don't think that's a problem for these teams, to be honest. I don't think they expect these star guys to go out and be everything in the playoffs, because I think when you do that, you're putting a lot of pressure. You're putting all your eggs in one basket.
You're right.
So I think it's been good that they've had it spread out, and I think that's something that the Thunder have kind of done decently all season. Shea will get you 20 points, 30 points, and that's automatic most of the nights in the regular season. But you need those other guys to fill in those gaps. So I think it's really been a battle of depth for these teams to an extent.
Definitely.
And almost seeing, how's each team looking and how's everyone feeling at the start of the second quarter, midway through the second quarter when some stars are starting to rest. And so how can we be effective in these minutes where we don't have Shea on the floor and we don't have J-Dub on the floor and we don't have Chet on the floor? And how can we manage to be effective with our bench players against these certain different lineups? And I think it's been a lot more of a chess match than it shows, because think about it. These 2 teams can put up 130 points on any given night, but we just watch them play a game and neither of them scored
over 100.
Yeah, the Nuggets didn't even get over 90.
And that's the question. It's depth. For both these teams is the depth, and that's what they're using. And as you said, I totally agree with you. The chess match is this series because you have to play the right players at the right time. Of course, Coach Jokic is going to make those decisions on the.
I've been loving him. I've been loving him fire up the team in the timeouts. It's
really cool. That's why I think he's the MVP. But moving from that, OKC, they've got bench depth, and in my opinion, they have more bench depth than the Nuggets. Is that going to be the deciding factor in this close series?
It would be if the Nuggets didn't have Jokic and the series wasn't tied 2-2. We're going to see Game 5 in Oklahoma City, which is obviously a huge advantage for the Thunder. They can fill out Paycom very simple. They're going to be able to do that.
It's going to be full.
Yeah, they're going to get that place erupting. But there's a difference in how these teams play and how these teams hold themselves in the playoffs, almost from what I've seen in the series. And the Nuggets just play with, it doesn't matter what, they both play great basketball, but I've just seen a lot more pressure from the Nuggets specifically as they have been creeping up onto the Thunder at certain moments. And I think it's been really interesting to see how experience has played a role for this matchup. The Thunder haven't really been deep in the playoffs a whole lot in the last handful of years, but the Nuggets have been hanging in there. The Nuggets have been hanging in there almost every year.
Yep.
So I think experience is the counteract to the depth problem. Obviously, the Nuggets missing their head coach is a problem as well, but they still have their foundation of their coaching staff. So I don't think that's as big of a problem as people make it seem. And Jokic is a great mind. Like he's
coach.
clearly not the most physically gifted person in the NBA,
got a great mind, though.
but he is very smart and very, very technical with the game. So it's been a really entertaining series.
I'm going to say that it's going to be the Nuggets who move on. Do you have a final prediction about this?
Man, I'd love for the Nuggets to move on.
I think the Nuggets are going to move on. We are going to take a 1-minute break. The Warriors and the Timberwolves are tied at 6 at this moment. We'll continue to give you updates. We're going to be going into the NFL now. We're going to be talking about some NFL news. We're going to talk about the first game of the season, and then Derek Carr's retirement. And last, we're going to be talking about the Cleveland Browns and their quarterback situation. Hello and welcome back to Catching Up with Carter here on Saddleback College Radio, 88.5 HD2. And joining me is Matthew Pearce here in the studio, giving you another update. Golden State Warriors are down by 1, 8-9. This game will go back and forth. We'll give you more updates as we go on here in the show. We're going to be going into some NFL news. We're going to start off with the first game of the season has been announced, the Thursday night game. It is the Eagles and Cowboys. It has gotten a lot of news, a lot of things going around in the media. A lot of people not liking this. I'm one of those people. I did not like this announcement. The Eagles, they will defend their title in 2025 with a rivalry showdown, of course, against the Cowboys. And for me, I wanted it to be Washington versus the Eagles. Did you have another option for this first game?
I mean, the Washington matchup is obviously the most, it just makes the most sense. Does this say they're playing at Lincoln Financial, right?
This one, yes.
Okay,
it will
because
be.
I thought I had seen rumors that they were going to open it in Brazil.
I don't believe it's a Brazil opening for this season.
That would be weird. But
yeah, so it's going to be.
That must have been wrong.
Yeah, it's going to be at Lincoln Financial, so it'll be exciting. Of course, it's the Eagles, the Cowboys. They're always going to fight with each other. They're always going to be. So it's going to be a good game. But I did want to see the star power of Jaden Daniels again right away at the beginning of the season. Dak Prescott, we didn't see much because he just got injured. So there was really nothing to look at, I would say. So we'll see if Dak can do something. But I don't know. I don't like the Cowboys' chances this year in general at all. I think that division is way too stacked, and it's not going to be good for them.
Especially with the Washington Commanders getting the pieces they've gotten. Like Deebo Samuels in Washington.
Don't even remind me about Deebo Samuel.
I have to, bro. We're talking about the Commanders.
Come on.
We're talking about the chances.
I get you're a Rams fan. You got to tell the Niners fan about him losing Deebo.
Get out of here. Get out of here. We don't want you in the end. We don't want you in the NFC West.
It's how it is. But, the Cowboys, we'll see what they can do. The Commanders, I definitely think it's going to be Commanders, Eagles, Cowboys in that division. I think the Commanders are going to win it this year and prove themselves to be the top of that division. Because at this point, I think isn't it 14 seasons in a row now that it's been a different winner in the NFC East? It's been just never the same over and over again.
I don't know the stats for that, but that doesn't surprise me with the teams that are in there. I mean, the Cowboys are in their mix every once in a while. The Eagles have been in the mix recently. The Commanders had a handful of seasons.
Not the Giants, though. They're just never there. They're basically
they were there.
Seasons.
They were there
back
in the early 2010s.
With Eli Manning.
Yeah, with Eli a little bit. I guess that was within the last 14 years, wasn't it? That was 2012, I think.
We're not that old, are we? I don't think we're that old.
That makes think about the Manning brothers playing in the NFL right now. It makes me feel really old. That feels like forever ago.
I would have, to be honest, if I was looking at a matchup to have, I would have maybe chosen Eagles Commanders. But for me, a matchup that I know it's been done over and over and over again, but Chiefs Bills is always fun to watch too.
That's
a
great one.
Fun start.
I really like how they have the reigning champion.
It's always the reigning champ.
It always is that. So they got to open it up with the Eagles. I think another good matchup for that could have been the Chiefs theoretically, and you just kind of run back the Super Bowl. At the start of the season, there's always that option.
I hope Sunday Night Football they do something fun too. I don't think that they announced that yet because the schedule is released on the 14th, I believe. Yep. So we don't have all of that info unless Sunday Night Football has been announced that I did not see yet. But I know that this one has been announced. We'll see all of that. Of course, I was happy with seeing what my 49ers are playing this season. We're playing some weaker divisions for the NFC West, thankfully. Do you have any info on that Sunday Night Football game or nothing yet?
No, I got nothing. I was looking at the other home opponents for the Eagles. I think Lions or Rams.
That would have been good too.
I think the Rams would have been perfect. The Rams would have been perfect. I personally would have loved to see the Rams open up the season.
Because then it's not snowing. That would have been cool to see because everyone talked about the snow game.
If the Rams get thrown into Lincoln Financial in the middle of December this year, I'm going to be so frustrated. I like the chance of it happening is what, 1 in 17.
And
right?
It might happen again.
The chance of it, they're probably going to do it on purpose, which is just dumb. But I think either of those two teams would have been awesome. I mean, obviously, the Cowboys or Commanders also make sense, but no one else on their home schedule really kind of tickles me in the right way other than those
the
three
Cowboys
teams.
Is just not – I think it's because of how the Cowboys are talked about in the media that everyone's like freaking out about it. I don't think it's that crazy. Of course, it's going to be great viewership for the NFL. Well, they want the Cowboys
The second the Cowboys get anything, their fans are going to be all over it.
If they win that first game, they'll think they won the Super Bowl. I mean,
they already think they won the Super Bowl, so.
They already do. Let's jump into some other news around the NFL. Before we do that, we have another little game break here. The Timberwolves have 14. The Warriors have 12, sadly, at least sadly for me. Maybe not sadly for some listeners out there. But yes, the Timberwolves are up by 2.
Real quick, the schedule the Eagles have this year.
Is it easy?
It's ridiculously hard.
Oh, hard.
It's the hardest schedule
Tell me who they're playing.
Okay.
Let's
so
go through
obviously
this
they
first.
have their division.
Yes.
And then at home they have the Bears, the Raiders, and the Broncos, which are like the three teams.
The 3 easy ones.
Those are their easiest
Broncos
games.
are hard too.
Those are they have 3 easy games in my opinion, and it's those. Obviously, I'm never going to count out division games as easy just because they're division games. But then you have the Lions, the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Packers, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Vikings, and the Bills.
Dude, they could actually just lose a ton of those games.
They could lose a lot of those games.
And they could be crazy wild card team. Like just because they lost a few of those games during the regular season, and they could be crazy in the wild card.
They could be one of the sneakiest postseason teams that we've seen in a while. But this schedule, they're going to be much more ready for the playoffs than most other teams.
Yes.
Because they're going to have film on everybody. They're going to have film on everyone going into next postseason. So just wanted to say that. I think I haven't seen a schedule this tough in a while. I know the Rams had a hard schedule.
I think all the NFC West had a pretty tough schedule last year compared to normal.
This one's crazy, though.
It is crazy. Now let's jump into Derek Carr because he is done. I had a question mark actually on this because the news was broke while I was writing this. 1 month after a reported shoulder injury left his status for the 2025 season up in the air, Derek Carr is retiring from the NFL at age 34. He says, upon reflection of prayer and a discussion with Heather, his wife, have decided to retire from the National Football League. For more than 11 years, we have been incredibly blessed, and we are forever grateful and humbled by this experience. It's difficult to find the right words to express our thanks to all the teammates, coaches, management, ownership, team officials, and especially the fans who made this journey so special. Your unwavering support has meant the world to us. Great quote there at the end. But Derek Carr, he's done and is leaving the Saints with not many options. We have Tyler, is it Shaq? Sorry, or Shuck? My apologies.
Shuck.
There we go. Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener, 4 total wins between these 3, and it's only because Jake Haener has 0 playoff experience, 0 playoff wins. Do they need to look at some free agent quarterbacks? Like who's left? Rodgers?
I mean, obviously there's Aaron Rodgers. But he's gonna keep waiting to sign.
Minnesota.
Okay?
I'm telling you, it's going to be a Minnesota sighting for like $4 million.
Maybe
Minnesota has him.
Maybe
my mom and I keep talking about this.
That would be the Brett Favre way to go.
The Brett Favre circle.
That would be the Brett Favre way to go. But honestly, Tyler Shuck, what is he? 25 years old.
Young guy.
He's not that young. That's
in
the thing.
In the sense, as a rookie, he's not young, but like in general, he's a younger
in general,
guy.
he's young, but
he's a very old rookie.
He's 25 years old. He had a couple injuries throughout college that allowed him to play longer and get him to this point where he's 25 years old and just now declaring for the draft. But he's pretty close to NFL ready in terms of quarterbacks in this class, and he was one of the biggest sleepers from this last year, in my opinion, that kind of fell under the radar just because of his injuries. So do I think they may go try and sign an Aaron Rodgers? Yeah, maybe. But do I think that ends up being the answer for them? No. I honestly think with him being 25 years old, you kind of have to play him now.
That's true.
There's not, like, what are you going to do? Let him sit for a year? Now he's 26.
That's not a good idea.
And Also, he is going to be 26 this year in September, so he's going to go into next season being 26 years old.
Yeah, Tyler Shuck, he could be good. I mean, it just depends. Again, like, he is older, so he's got more experience in general in college.
If you have him sit behind Rodgers for a year, he goes into his starting season at 27 years old. And now you don't really have a whole lot to play with in terms of watching him play. How does he react in certain situations? What pieces do we need for him?
It's just at this point, the Saints are just going to have to say this season's not a playoff year. We're going to just test around.
The dumpster fire in New Orleans needs to be put out before they can think about contending.
They have so much dead money in general. They've been struggling so many years. Tyler Shuck, we'll see. I think you're correct in the way you put Shuck in, see what happens. If it doesn't work out, you got two other options. Just play around almost.
And they'll always have, what's his name? The tight
Taysom
end.
Hill.
Taysom Hill. They'll always have Taysom Hill to whatever they like to do with him. I don't know why they keep doing it.
Quarterback?
It clearly, it works to an extent, but it clearly limits their opportunity. So I don't understand.
I've got to say, though, he does clutch up for my fantasy team once a year.
Once a year,
he clutches up with 38 points because he's playing QB for some reason.
I don't disagree, but the effectiveness of it is questionable.
Of course. Now let's jump over to some more quarterback stuff. We're going to talk about the Browns quarterback room because your favorite.
My favorite.
The most crazy thing that's been going on around the NFL world has been Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders in this quarterback room because they have so many options. But what QBs are really to pick? Let's go through them here. This is Bleacher Report. They reported on this. They have descending order of who they would think. Of course, Deshaun Watson, he's continuing his rehab for his torn Achilles, so he will not be playing. They can't cut him until 2026. That'll go down as one of the worst trades ever, in my opinion. Kenny Pickett, he's the fourth option, traded from the Steelers, then moved again from the Eagles to the Browns. So just, he's unlikely to make the final roster if others kind of perform well. Of course, they're going to take probably 3 quarterbacks on this roster, if I were to guess. Shedeur Sanders, he's got a high upside, well-known name, but, a day 3 pick. A lot of people kind of viewed him, as a second-round talent, but he dropped off in the end because GMs were saying about his struggles in meetings, struggled in that. The Browns, they passed on him 6 times and drafted him after Dillon Gabriel, which in this list is the first option. Joe Flacco is the second pick. He rejoins the Browns again, and he's likely a week 1 starter, but just not a long-term answer. And then you've got Dillon Gabriel. He has got high experience, 63 starts. So a lot of people are saying he's going to be like a Russell Wilson type pick. He's going to be the one to start. And in my opinion, I would say go with Flacco. Go with Flacco first, see what happens at the beginning of the year, and then throw Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders in. Do you have a different opinion on this?
Yeah, I think this year is going to be really experimental for them. The Deshaun Watson thing is just atrocious. Kenny Pickett should be headed to their practice squad, even though he's a solid. He's not that bad.
Did you see there was a Instagram post of the comparison of hand sizes between Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco?
I did not see that.
Kenny Pickett, because if during the draft process when he got picked up, he played at Pitt and then was picked up by Pittsburgh. Everyone was like, "Oh yay!" His hands are like, okay, for me, I think I have small hands in general. I think we have the same size of hands, and I'm like 5'10".
Yeah, no, he's tiny.
He's got tiny hands. And then they had Joe Flacco. His hands wrap around the ball.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I've seen Joe Flacco's hands.
It's wild. But no, I think the Browns, they go with Joe Flacco. Of course, the talk is Shedeur Sanders. You were saying at the beginning you had a take that you don't really like Shedeur that much. I want to hear that.
Nah, I'm not a huge fan, and this could completely come back and bite me in the butt. But I don't hate your opinion about starting Joe Flacco at the start of the season. One of the main problems with the NFL that people have going into it, like rookies have, is just the entire the way it operates. And how quick turnarounds can be at times. So I think letting Joe Flacco step up and start for the first, 4 or 5 weeks, and then honestly having a split between Shedeur and Dillon Gabriel, allowing both of them to show themselves what they can do in different opportunities against different teams for a couple of weeks. Like this isn't just this year, I think generally, you're not taking Joe Flacco as a starter in the next season. No. You're going to have Shedeur Sanders, Dillon Gabriel, and Kenny Pickett as your 3 quarterbacks going into next year. Which of these 2 is our starter? Let's give each of them 6 weeks, and let's have Joe Flacco for 5 games.
That's super smart. I would say that's the smartest. But we'll see what happens in preseason, because if one of these guys goes off in preseason, like pretend Shedeur has the craziest preseason, they're most likely going to start him. I mean, Deion Sanders, I'm sorry to say it, but he has the pull. He has the pull to get that happen if he plays well. And I know I feel like you're almost having your head down, like, why would they do this? But Deion is that type of guy that would do that.
I don't disagree, but I think there's been a lot of worry about Deion kind of from teams, and that's
why they've passed on him.
I know that's kind of why he passed on him, and also Dylan Gabriel is definitely it shocked me when he got picked before Shedeur.
Before Shedeur, I was so confused.
These people do know more than I do, certainly, and on top of that, Shedeur Sanders yeah, he got his jersey retired, but that's because Daddy was his coach. Did realistically,
you see the memes on that too?
What did he do that really proved him to be?
He was 13 and 20 something. I don't even know. He wasn't even a winning quarterback.
He wasn't that great. No. He couldn't lead the team to a win, and I'm not yes, they won games, but they weren't a winning program under him. And yeah, they didn't really have a run game, and that's what they'll always bring to you. But why didn't they have a run game? It's not because they didn't have a running back. There were choices made there, right? And there's problems that come with quarterbacks, and a quarterback is just as much involved in a run game as the running back is, because the quarterback needs to fake into the run game at times. So I'm just I've been low on Shedeur. I talked to my dad and brother a lot about sports, and I told them going into the draft, I think he's going to fall to day 2 at least. And so I don't think he's completely a bust, but he's very much a developmental pick. He almost feels like the equivalent of Bronny James.
I mean,
Bronny's a little more, and the NBA is a little different. Players take a little more time in the NBA to develop. Like Giannis, you said, he was drafted in 2013, didn't win until 2022.
It's true. But at the same time, Shedeur's looked okay in training camp. It's all going to change. I don't know if Deion's going to do it. At the same time, Deion could totally be the most, chill around it, in the sense that he could totally just coach Colorado and just sit there and not say anything, let him be his own guy, which I hope that he does, because Shedeur looks good at training camp. He's looked good on a few passes that I've saw on Instagram. I was going to tell you, there was a meme of them saying Deion Sanders' son as the retired number, but it was memes of people editing that.
Well, that's what it is.
That basically is what it is. Now, the Golden State Warriors, they're up 24-23. I have to tell you, the highest...
23-23. Oh, yeah.
24-23. The Warriors are up.
I'm behind.
No, you're all good. Draymond Green has 8 points.
I saw him hit a 3, and I wanted to say something, but I just left it.
Draymond has 8 points. I am excited. It's been fun talking here on Catching Up with Carter, here with Matthew Pearce. It's been fun. We talked about the NBA playoffs. We've been talking all about the Golden State Warriors, of course, throughout the show, and, of course, some NFL news. Matthew, do you have some final words for the listeners?
Nah, not really. I mean, I had a blast. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for tuning in. Carter, thank you so much for having me. Like I said at the start, I really love coming out here and, doing this. I miss being on the radio as much as I was when I was out here. So it's really fun to come back and get to talk shop with my boy Carter. Make sure to tune in to his show next week. I might be here.
I'm hoping Matthew's here.
I haven't confirmed or denied yet. I don't think I will be, but I'm going to try my best to be. So tune in next week, Monday, 7 p.m., right?
Yes, 7 p.m.
Monday, 7 p.m. And then also, don't forget to check out the Jeff and Jeffrey show on Wednesdays. Tuesdays. On Tuesdays. That's my other guy, Jeff. So make sure to tune into that too. And like you said, my name's Matthew Pearce, and thanks, Carter, for having me.
No problem. Thank you so much for checking in here on Catching Up with Carter at 7 p.m. One final check-in for the Warriors. I'm going to be running home to watch it. It's 26-23. The Warriors are up, so we're hoping it stays like this. Of course, there's been memes talked about by some of my friends saying this is the Warriors show, but if you're on Catching Up with Carter, you're going to be talking about the Warriors. Thank you so much for checking in. My name is Carter Kirchhevel, and I hope to see you next week at 7 p.m.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.